Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 24th, 2021, and recently I just posted a video on the brown rot and just basically going over a food forest and challenges that you can have in a food forest, or at least one challenge, having a canker disease where a fungal disease can affect the wood, and also brown rot coming in and really destroying a lot of the fruit from your stone fruits and all. And I thought, and I really emphasized about the importance of pruning, removing dead, diseased, dysfunctional limbs and all. And this is an area I've been working in for a while. Now this is our zone 5, meaning the least amount of time that people spend in this part of your property. So zone 0 would be in your home, zone 1 would be your kitchen garden, zone 2 might be your chicken coop or whatever it is. All of the areas that you're spending less time and less frequently going into the zones as you get to the higher numbers. And zone 5 in permaculture is really a minimally managed, if managed at all, forested area. It could be an area where you plant trees for future generations. It could be where you take some wood out as well. And this is our maple forest. We call it a maple forest. There's cherries, there's ash, there's oaks, sassafras in some areas, basswood, and I'm forgetting a whole bunch as well. But in other videos I've talked about some of the challenges down in the areas, and since I've been working down in here, and one of the things I've been working on is getting my access roads. So this is one of the access roads right here that I'm on right now with Pepe, because I have to bring the heavy equipment up to remove stone walls and some dirt piles that I'm using to build other access roads. So it's really important to have a good picture of what you're going to do in the forest area and how you're going to meet the needs, not just in the immediate future, but in the long distant future. So one of the things I need to do is be able to bring a piece of equipment, whether it's a truck or a tractor with a dump trailer behind it, so I can get the wood out of here, get the stones out of here, and do future work in the years to come. There will be many much smaller paths or trails going through the woods where we can have tours in the future and part of our educational system. So we'll go down into the bog areas, go down into the beaver dams, go into other areas where we can look at different habitats and different manifestations of the various ecosystems, whether we're going to ponds in the woods or we're going to vernal pools, so we can discuss the roles of each one of these things. So I mentioned before some of the grapevines. So here's one of the grapevines, and they climb up in the trees and they go from tree to tree and they damage the trees and all. So that's one of the things I'll be working on over the next few years. So pulling out a lot of these grapevines and all, and some of these I'll end up digging big pits and making hugelkultur pits where we'll put all that carbon from all these big vine systems here back into the ground. Some of the wood here will be chipping that, so that'll go up into the food forest as well and into the gardens. There's a bunch more of the grapevines there, and I don't know, you can see in the maple behind it there some of the grapevines going up. They get right up into the upper canopy, and as the canopies touch each other, the grapevines go from tree to tree, and then with the snowstorms and ice storms, it pulls down the limbs. And anytime that we damage limbs and all, then we're leaving ourselves open to opportunistic infections and pathogens as well. And you can see I've been working here. I've cut off the vines on this one here that I couldn't pull down because I didn't want to damage any more of the upper canopy. And you see the vines all over in here as well, and these trees. I hope you can see it. I don't know. It's just there's clusters and clusters of these grapevines up into the canopies of all these trees. And I talked about damage, disease, and dysfunctional. So this is an ash tree right in front of us. And you see this bulbous area right here where you see, so that's a telltale sign of a disease process going on. And certainly we have the emerald ash boring insect, but that isn't what this is about. And then you see this dark stained area here as well. So this is some of the fluids coming from the xylem and phloem as the roots are bringing up the fluids from the soil. They're coming up, and we have embedded bark right up here. And so every rainfall, moisture, even the condensation in the forest will get down in between, because the bark is growing between these two limbs, these two main branches here. There was a single limb here that got broke off for some reason, whether it was a storm, ice storm, or another tree, or whatever happened, and then two took off and did apical growth, and they created this. So now we have this tree that's eventually going to split and rip right down the center, and there's an opportunity for insects to get in here as well. So that's a major problem, and that's going to be a problem in the future. Whenever we have limbs that are coming off, and like this limb here, you see the angle between those limbs is so close. If you look up on this here, there was another limb that did come off that spot right there, and that one broke off at some point several years ago, probably 2003 when we had the ice storm, and that limb is gone now. I may have cleaned it up years ago, but that limb may break. So we're always looking for evidence of embedded bark. That's where the bark is working its way in between the limbs. Ideally, we think about a 45-degree angle. That would be great. When they're too close together, really uptight like this, this can be an issue. But again, we're prone to heavy snowfalls and ice storms in this area, so these are things that I think about as I'm going through. So I'm always in my own mind saying, okay, that tree is one we can sacrifice. That'll be good burning wood, so that could be used for wood stoves. We could sell that wood. The upper limbs, we can chip that and all. And that's a tree, that limb, if I control it when I take it out, it isn't going to necessarily damage a neighboring tree and do more damage to that tree. So we're always thinking about, well, what other further damage can this tree do to another tree in close proximity? So, you know, and here's an example, a nice maple right here with several dead limbs. So those limbs, and it's already, because the limb is still in place, and I can remember when I used to prune trees, before I learned the proper way of doing it, I might cut off a limb right up here. Now this is all dead, and it's holding the moisture, it's decomposing, and so this is a dangerous limb that could fall at any time. But as you can see, the collar here wanted to seal this off, so if this had been cut off right where this collar is, then this tree would have healed right over and not have an opportunity for infections and all to get in here. Now, can that make a nice cavity for a nest? It certainly can. This is a nice example of a limb coming off at the appropriate angle, so that's fine. But this is a nice maple. Here's another one that, you know, that potentially could seal over now. But just some of my thoughts while I'm just standing here thinking about, you know, when we're going through the area, trying to decide which trees pose an issue. So this is another ash tree right here, and this one's still alive up there, so that's good. So at some point in time, because these are all pretty much going now, under ideal circumstances, would I take out an ash tree that has no evidence of the emerald ash boring insect in it? No, I wouldn't. But if they're in areas that are right next to access roads or trails that people are going to be coming on in the future, these are more susceptible, unfortunately, to the storms and all. So they're ones that I pay really close attention to, since they are more susceptible to the emerald ash boring insect. So I've taken off the root balls here. I use those for some of the base of the roadways that I'm putting in. And we're coming up here to see some of the work I've been doing recently. Now, I've shown videos in the past where I've come up with hound Bumblebee and with Elon. So Hound is the track loader. Bumblebee was the older excavator that I had, and Elon is the new one. So here's a few of the stumps that I've dug out, and these will be utilized. These will be, in a sense, a form of hugelkultur. All this material is going to break down slowly in the earth. And this is where the tree fell on me here. But I cut a new little path up here. Tried to take a path where I was taking out as many bad trees as possible and disturbing others as little as possible. So, like this tree coming up here probably is a root sucker from this tree here. This limb will end up coming off at some point in time before too long, and so we have a good healthy tree left over. One of these trunks here will be taken off because as time goes on, these will keep bumping up against each other and damaging the bark. And as future years come along, we're going to have more and more debris that will create a soil, and material will collect in there, leaves. It'll start to create soil and it'll start to break down. So we're getting up to an area. I had been working on the stone wall all along in here. The does have been out constantly with their fawns. Most of them have twins this year. I see 3 does with twins, and I have 1 doe with just a single baby so far. So those are the 4 does I've seen so far. So this whole area was all stone wall between all of these trees here. There's still a little bit more that I've got to pull out. But I've come up here after clearing this area here where I could get Elon up here, the excavator. I could reach over and try to do as little damage to these maples and basswood. There's basswood right here, and our maples here. Try not to damage these roots very much, and I'll put soil back over them, but I need to get in here further and get more of this stone wall out of here. And again, you know, there will be trees that I have to take out of here. I've already taken a few out, and I want to reduce the crowding of the trees. These ones are pretty large and are way up there, so I'm not going to bother with trying to separate any of these trees here, just the ones that are dead. There's dead ones in here. I've already taken out some. But coming in here, scooping out carefully, rather gingerly, trying not to touch. And here I did damage some of the roots here, but there's enough established roots that I think will be okay with this. And I'll come around and mulch around all of these trees in the future when I get the opportunity. But you can see the stone wall came right out to here, and you can see how far it goes, right up to that tree with 3 main trunks there. And the stone wall gets narrower here and gets even narrower up ahead up there. But this is what I'm doing, cleaning out as much of this, really looking out, making sure, like here's a great big dead trunk right here. So you may look at the base here and not think anything of it, but this top here was from a maple. It came down here and hit this one, but this is dead right here. If you look up there, the bark is all off of this one. There's not a live limb up on this one here. So it's really observation, looking around and seeing how things are. We see there was a trunk here, and this one had broken off before, and want to see how viable they are. So you really got to look up there and say, okay, this one's in good shape. Here we've got this one here. This one's ready. Yep. These can be quite dangerous if they're large. So before I come in and start taking out any of this stone wall here, I'm going to look carefully and see what do I have to take out so I don't have something coming down on me or on top of the equipment. When I dropped a tree over there, the vibrations caused this one here to fall over. So this is a dead maple right here. And see, and here's another dead maple right here that's probably just about as bad. And You know, so this is all these are hazards. Do I want to take out all dead trees? No, I do not. The dead trees are an important resource for, you know, the woodpeckers and a whole variety of other insect-eating birds. The other thing is it's a great habitat for many different nesting species. These are some of the piles. I ended up having to take down one live tree and a couple of dead trees here from this pile here, but this pile went right down here, and there's still more there, and then I just want to tease these piles out, take out the dead and diseased trees that are growing in here. And the other thing is, what's going to be isn't a big problem right now, but what is going to be a problem in the future. So this maple here is going to be a problem in the future. And this center tree here is dying at this point. You can see some of the bark problems here already dying. And so these ones that are multiple trees coming up from a common root base, those are ones that end up like this one here. Here's another maple here. And we got another dead limb trunk right here. Oops. And so these things can come right down on you at any time. So, and this one has too narrow of an angle, but we'll look here and see, yes, there is embedded bark right in here. So as this gets larger, it'll probably be a few years, but as the winds come and the weight on the top of the tree happens, it'll start to gradually separate this tree and create a fissure between this and allow disease to propagate. This tree here I'll look at carefully. I see some dead. It's not a bad looking maple right here. I'll save this one because it's a single trunk, nice and straight, looks good. This one unfortunately was right in the middle of the pile over here, so that one had to go. But I want to leave enough space for the trees to grow and to fill out, but I don't want the ones that are multiple trunks coming up as well. So you can see this is another. Now I could cut off one trunk and just leave the other one, try to decide which looks the best. It's kind of tough when they're real tight together like this because they won't be as balanced at the top when they're growing right tight together. And we want these trees to get a nice canopy on them. And so it's always a decision. Now a lot of these trees I won't be taking, a lot of these, like these will be great for wood chipping. But like I want to save the ones that look like they can be nice and balanced. So these are my thoughts. Even though this is zone 5, I want to do as little intervention in here as possible, but I want to get rid of all of those grapevines because they're doing damage. Every year they're doing damage. And because we have the harsh winters here, I want to, you know, spread things out, let the canopies get open, and remove the ones that are these ones that have embedded bark, the ones that are too close together, so that we can have more open areas. And there'll be areas that I'm opening up that I'm going to totally replant the whole area with some of the native species from this region as well. So you can't just look at the base, you have to look at the top. You have to think about what's going to happen in a couple of years from now, and those are all, I think, important perspectives to utilize when you're trying to think about how am I going to manage this forest area. I don't want to, this is an entire ecosystem, and there's sub-ecosystems within this ecosystem, and I want to make it so the white-tailed deer are going to love it here, the raccoons, the possums, everybody's going to have a wonderful life here as well. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. If you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, folks, stay safe and take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.